Hi everyone, I'm Asha, an Akashic Records reader, blogger, and podcaster. In this series, we will demystify the Akashic Records by bringing to you bite-sized contents on frequently asked questions relating to the Akashic Records. We will also explore topics relating to spirituality, as well as practical application, learnings, and reflections in the Akashic Records. My Akashic Masters are very excited to join us in this journey. We send much love, light, and blessings to all. Welcome to episode 24 on Jealousy, Healing the Past. Jealousy is a deep-seated emotion that everybody experiences on a certain level, yet it often gets conveniently buried and dismissed. While we are often willing to discuss about our anger, fears, and worries, it is much more difficult to even broach the topic of jealousy. What is jealousy? When do I feel jealous? Why do I feel jealous? What can I do to release the jealousy? Let's begin. On the first question, what is jealousy? According to the Masters, jealousy is an unhealed and often suppressed emotion that dislikes the successes, victories, and happiness experienced by others, and the wish to take it away from them. Jealousy often comes from a place of lack and insecurity, whereby we find ourselves to be lacking when compared against the other person's achievements, attributes, good qualities, and even material possessions. What is the difference between jealousy and envy? While both emotions crave for the perceived successes, victories, and happiness experienced by others, jealousy comes with an added component of anger, whether directed at self or others, or even the desire to harm. A person experiencing envy would probably think, I wish I have that. A person experiencing jealousy may probably think, I wish I have that. How unfair it is that this person receives that. How is this person even deserving of that? Why am I not the chosen one? On the second point, when do I feel jealous? Just reflecting on this lifetime alone, I have had countless instances where I experienced jealousy. Growing up in a traditional family, I was inculcated values, whether directly or indirectly, that males were more cherished and precious compared to females. It was often repeated to us that man is the head of the family. They take on the family surname even after marriage, and they continue the family line through their offspring, who will similarly take on the family surname when born. Therefore, since imperial times, a man is trusted to inherit the family assets and tasked with the noble responsibility of continuing the family lineage. In my young mind back then, I often wondered, why do people even bother to give birth to females under such circumstances if their hearts and minds are not willing to extend equality to all their children? What is a female's role at home and in the society? Is a female's role at home simply to provide company to the chosen male so that he does not grow up all alone? Is a female entitled to ask for more love, respect, and equality, rather than to be reminded to simply be grateful that she is at least given food, shelter, and an education? Why must we as females be frequently reminded of our second-class status in the family line? Are we not trusted as a child or viewed suspiciously as a threat? Is a female's role in society simply to grow up, get married, leave the family, and give birth? Why can't females similarly aspire for more in life? Of course, I would be lying to myself if I say I didn't feel jealous when I look at the seemingly preferential treatment of the chosen male. As I grew up, I was able to revisit my perspectives. I slowly observed why I was even inculcated with these values in the first place. It wasn't because my dad was an evil person. The truth was, he too experienced his fair share of discrimination even from his own dad. My dad grew up in a large family of 6 siblings, including himself. As the eldest son in a traditional family, he ought to be trusted to inherit the family assets and tasked with the noble responsibility of continuing the family lineage. Instead, he was disliked by his own dad since young and was often viewed suspiciously as a threat who may rob his other siblings of the family assets. No matter how hard my dad tried to win the love and trust of his own dad through paying more allowances, hospital bills, maid levies, and the like, he never made it anywhere near. Seen in that context, my dad's treatment of his own children was his attempt to correct the injustices and unfairness that he suffered and suppressed since young. That explains why, for decades, he kept repeating his views on male versus female children, lest we forget and repeat the suffering that he experienced. On the third point, why do I feel jealous? In my childhood story cited above, my jealousy was probably a mix of envy, anger, and sadness. There was envy because I wish I was at the receiving end of the preferential treatment, that I was the first class instead of the second class gender at home. There was anger due to feelings of injustice and unfairness, which stems from my belief that everyone, whether male or female, should be treated equally. In my junior college days, in preparation for the general paper, one of my pet topics was gender equality. I devoured articles and books on gender equality, and I could write passionately about them from many angles. If there was anything I inherited from my dad, it was those feelings of injustice and unfairness that he too suffered from his own dad. There was sadness because I held a deep longing for the love and trust of my own dad. In my journey to heal, I also drilled deeper into past life experiences with my dad, through which I understood when, why, and how the anger and resentment towards him first arose. That is, in my view, the beauty of accessing our Akashic records. Not to pry into the past out of mere curiosity, but to dive deeply to uncover the root issue or root experience with the intent to heal and release. On the last point, what can I do to release the jealousy? According to the masters, awareness is often the first step towards healing. When we are finally ready to dig out these suppressed emotions and face them directly with the intent to heal and release, the healing has already begun. When we come to terms with what happened and reconcile all differences with a calm and peaceful mind, we have advanced in our own healing. We do not always see noticeable progress or derive clear conclusions from these past events which hurt us badly and made us feel jealous. That is perfectly fine. Just by observing and journaling down all our thoughts, emotions, and feelings that have arisen in that event, we will almost certainly observe a noticeable lightness and brightness within us. So let's strive to lift this past baggage off our shoulders, one by one. Sending you lots of love and light. Blessings from Asha and Akashic Masters. If you are interested to access your Akashic records with the intent to heal and release, you may want to consider registering for a themed Akashic Light reading and healing session, which centers on deep healing of past and present issues afflicting the soul. Check out my website for more details. Thank you for tuning in to this podcast. If you would like to read about my dialogues and reflections with the Akashic Masters, you can visit my free blog at asha-akashicrecords.com. Till next time, take care.